Would you believe it? A dead broke 22-year-old with nothing but $300 and a cracked phone took over a dying repair kiosk inside a struggling mall. In just 3 months, he didn't just survive. He swallowed every competitor on that floor whole and built a cash machine generating millions in annual revenue. His name is Marcus. Right now, he is sitting on the cold tile floor outside that kiosk, back against the metal shutter, staring at the $300 in his palm. That is everything. His last 3 months of savings scraped together from odd jobs and skipped meals. Around him, the mall hums with foot traffic. But nobody is stopping. They walk past like the kiosk doesn't exist, and honestly, they have every reason to. 4 other phone repair shops are stacked within 200 meters of his location, each one older, better equipped, and more trusted. The price war has already drawn blood. Screen replacement, once a profitable $80 job, has been slashed down to $30. After spare parts, labor, and kiosk rent, the net profit on a full repair is a pathetic $2. $2. That is not a business, that is punishment. Competitors have been locked in this war for 2 years. 2 of them are already operating at a loss, surviving on stubbornness alone. Even the mall manager, before handing Marcus the keys, leaned in close. Son, I'm telling you this out of kindness. 6 shops have tried this kiosk in the last 4 years. Every single one folded. You will be lucky to last 2 months. Marcus smiled. Signed the lease anyway. And then did something nobody in that mall could have predicted. On his very first morning, Marcus did not open for repairs. He did not post discount signs or run promotions. He did not undercut a single competitor. Instead, he walked to a stationery store, bought a roll of red vinyl, and cut 4 words by hand. He pressed them onto the kiosk window himself. Screen protection, forever free. The entire floor erupted. Competing shop owners stepped out of their stores to stare. Some laughed openly. The guy 2 kiosks down, 6 years in the business, shook his head slowly. That kid just flushed $300 straight into the drain. A crowd of curious shoppers gathered, half of them holding cracked phones as if they had been waiting for exactly this kind of spectacle. They debated in small clusters. It has to be a scam. The parts alone cost money. Nobody believed it. Everybody waited. And Marcus gave them his answer. Calm, direct, absolute. He addressed every single person who walked up the same way, eye contact steady, tone certain. Listen, I mean exactly what the sign says. Screen protection is free. Forever. Every replacement, every installation, for as long as you own this phone. No hidden charges, no fine print. All I ask is a one-time $180 deposit for your smart device care card. That deposit is 100% refundable, any day. Any reason. You want it back, I hand it back without a single question. But as long as that card is in your wallet, every screen protector is covered for life, every repair gets priority service, and you get 10% off all parts and labor. I will also throw in a free full device health check every 6 months, delivered straight to your door. People squinted. They looked at the sign. They looked at Marcus. This sounds like a trap. Marcus did not flinch. He slid a printed refund guarantee across the counter, signed, stamped, dated. Then he walked them through the numbers out loud. A quality screen protector costs $25 to $30 at any shop. You replace it 2 or 3 times a year. That is up to $90 a year just on screen protection. Over 5 years, you are spending close to $450. You give me $180 once and you never pay for screen protection again. And you can pull that $180 back the moment you want it. The smiles started disappearing from the competitors' faces. By the end of the first week, 300 people had signed up. By the end of the 3rd week, that number had crossed 2,500. Marcus's account held $450,000 in cash. Now, while you are sitting there calculating how many free screen protectors Marcus can afford before he collapses, he has already moved 3 steps ahead. That $450,000 did not sit in his account long. He took it straight to one of the city's largest mobile accessories wholesale distributors. The company had been bleeding for 8 months. Inventory stacking up, cash flow strangled, creditors circling. The owner was barely sleeping. Marcus walked into that office, placed a bank statement on the desk, and said 6 sentences. I want to prepay for your supply. 3 years of screen protectors and repair components paid up front today. The condition is simple. 40% below wholesale price. And 15% equity in your company. The owner stared at the statement, then at Marcus, then at the statement again. He signed before end of day. Marcus turned around and walked into the city's largest phone parts refurbishing facility. Same play. Different numbers. Company desperate for operating capital. Marcus arrives with leverage and a pen. 3 years prepayment. Half the normal price. 20% equity. Signed. Now let's pull back to that kiosk and run the real numbers. Before those supply chain deals, Marcus's true cost per screen protector, including the protector itself, labor, and doorstep delivery for home service members, was $9.50 per unit. After locking in shareholder pricing from his own supplier, that cost collapsed to $1.10. $1.10. The monthly interest generated by $450,000 sitting in a conservative money market account came to roughly $1,800. More than enough to cover total supply costs for all 2,500 members combined. Think carefully about what that means. Marcus is delivering free screen protection to 2,500 people and not spending a single dollar of his own money to do it. The deposit interest covers everything. The deposits themselves are untouched. They sit in his account like a permanent interest-free loan that nobody ever calls in because calling it in means surrendering free protection forever. Those 2,500 people are not customers. They are assets, locked inside his ecosystem with money they refuse to walk away from. Not one of them will pay $30 at a competitor for something they get free from Marcus. And when they crack a screen, when a battery dies, when they upgrade phones and need full setup and a fresh protector fitted, they come to Marcus. Because they are already there. And every time someone walks in, his team slips a coupon into the bag. Phone cases, wireless chargers, smart accessories, all stocked at margins no competitor can match because his supply cost is less than half of theirs. This is the iron law behind every great business empire. Whoever controls the entry point to the customer's daily life owns the right to charge for everything else that walks through that door. But here is what most people do not realize. Marcus did not invent this. Decades before Marcus was born, a young man in a mid-sized American city was running the same game, only colder, sharper, and at a scale that eventually made him the richest human being who had ever lived. He was 24 years old, the son of a traveling con man, raised on almost nothing, and completely obsessed with one question. How do I control the system, not just compete inside it? His name was John D. Rockefeller. The year was 1863. Cleveland, Ohio. A young Rockefeller had scraped together enough money to buy into a small oil refinery. The oil business was exploding. Dozens of refineries were springing up across the city, all of them fighting over the same customers, all of them slowly bleeding each other dry. Sound familiar? Most refiners stared at the margin on a barrel of oil. They competed on price. They argued over cents. They ground themselves down fighting a war they could never fully win because the economics of the product made deep profit almost impossible. Rockefeller looked somewhere else entirely. He spent weeks studying the real cost structure of the industry. Not just oil, everything around it. And he found it. The choke point that nobody else had noticed, or nobody else had the nerve to touch. Transport. Every barrel of oil that left Cleveland had to move on a railroad. And the railroads desperately needed volume to justify their routes. Without guaranteed volume, railroad lines ran half-empty, hemorrhaging money on fixed costs. Rockefeller walked into a meeting with the executives of the Lakeshore Railroad and made an offer that stopped them cold. Gentlemen, I will guarantee you 60 carloads of oil every single day. 60. More than any other refiner in this city. More than the next 3 combined. You will never run a half-empty train again. All I ask in return is a rebate, not a public rate, a private one, 25 cents off per barrel, between us alone. No announcement. No paperwork anyone else ever sees. The railroad executives stared at each other. 60 carloads a day was a number they had never seen from a single operator. The guaranteed volume alone justified an entire route. Refusing this deal meant watching that volume scatter across competitors. Accepting it meant locking in the most reliable revenue stream they had ever been offered. They agreed before Rockefeller stood up from the table. Now Rockefeller had something no competitor in Cleveland could see, measure, or fight against. A hidden cost advantage of 25 cents on every barrel he moved. On 60 carloads a day, that was thousands of dollars in invisible savings flowing silently into his accounts while every competitor operated blind. He used it like a scalpel. He began selling refined oil at prices his competitors could not match without losing money. They slashed their own margins trying to keep pace.
They did not know about the rebate. They did not know that while they bled, Rockefeller was quietly collecting. One by one, as Cleveland's refiners stumbled, Rockefeller arrived at their doors, not to gloat. He arrived with an offer. You are losing. I can see your numbers, even if you pretend otherwise. Join me, and your family is protected. Fight me, and the math finishes this for both of us. But the math only finishes one of us first. 22 of Cleveland's 26 refineries sold to Rockefeller in less than 3 months. He called it the Cleveland Massacre. The press called it ruthless. History called it genius. But here is the sentence Rockefeller said to his bookkeeper the morning after the last Cleveland refinery signed over. A sentence that cuts closer to the bone than anything in any business textbook ever written. I never competed for the profit on the barrel. I competed for the right to decide what the barrel costs to move. Once you own that, you never have to fight again. Every competitor fights inside the system. I built the system they were all trapped inside. Read that again. He did not compete inside the market. He built the walls of the market itself and charged everyone for the air inside. That is the logic Marcus replicated. That $450,000 in deposits is not Marcus's revenue. It is his railroad deal. The invisible advantage buried inside the economics that no competitor can see or explain. The poor compete on product margin. They calculate the $2 spread between cost and sell price. They sharpen their elbows and fight over inches in a market that was designed to keep them exactly where they are. But people like Marcus and Rockefeller never looked at product margin. They looked at leverage. They looked at what controls the cost structure underneath the market. They looked at the invisible mechanisms that determine who wins before the fight even begins. They did not enter the game. They built the board everyone else played on. But there is a question Rockefeller asked himself as a 24-year-old in a room full of men twice his age who thought they were negotiating with a boy. Who in this room built the table? Because whoever built the table decided the rules before anyone sat down. In the jungle of wealth, there is one law that does not soften, does not bend, and does not wait for you to be ready for it. If you cannot see who built the table, then almost certainly you are sitting at someone else's. Marcus is already moving on his next play. If you want to think like Marcus, if you want to think like Rockefeller at 24, if you want to stop being the guaranteed volume in someone else's deal and start writing the terms yourself, then I will see you in the next one.